And then our hashtag, which is hashtag MNPS Director. So if you have any suggestions, any concerns, any complaints, or if you just want to say great job, you can send that in too. So with that, we'll begin. So, Mr. Smith, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here in Nashville. And we want to kind of start this off by sort of putting a little bit at ease. So there's really a question I'm going to start off with twofold. One, sort of to break the ice, could you kind of tell us something that's a little unusual about you that we might not think would fit you, something sort of different. And then tell us a little bit about your story, your history, how you got to this point, and why now, why Nashville, why you?
Very good. Okay. So thank you all for being here and giving me the opportunity to speak to you and talk to you and listen to your questions. Something unusual about me that most people don't know. My real aspiration in life after being a superintendent is to be a deep sea fishing boat captain. Yeah. So I love fishing. I love, going out and pulling in tuna. I love crabbing, and fishing brings me a lot of joy. And so that is actually the next career that I would like to pursue. I would like to own a few boats and go out there and take people out and have them experience some of the same joy that I have fishing. Starting with my story, I am from Denver, Colorado, and I grew up in a two-parent home. My mother was a teen mother, and I grew up with a grandmother, a mother, and an aunt who I affectionately call my three-headed mother. And these women were truly responsible for directing me and keeping me in line because at an early age I learned to tell jokes. And because of my first name is actually not Alan, it is actually Herbert. There were a lot of jokes that were made about my name. And so I used to make people laugh so that folks wouldn't tease me. The other thing is that at an early age, I had a lisp, and so I had to go to a special trailer to take classes to get correction for my speaking. And so for me, it was being the class clown. And then my grandmother did the cruelest thing that you could ever imagine. She made me stay inside the whole summer and not play, and write and memorize a speech. The speech was my responsibility, my involvement. And I was to give that speech at the Optimist Oratorical Contest. And I did, and I won. And the only reason why I really won is because I wasn't competing against anybody, but nevertheless, I still won. And I had the opportunity to deliver that speech 5, 6, 7 more times until eventually I won the National Optimist Oratorical Contest and received a scholarship. That was the first time when I went back to my 7th grade class, and over the PA system, they said, congratulations to Alan Smith, that I thought of myself as a student. It was from then that I went on and really was ignited to do my best in education. And I remembered thinking that education for me was different for a lot of my buddies. And fast forward, I had the opportunity to get into education as what they call a building sub in Dayton, Ohio, at ironically a school called Allen Elementary. And I loved it. It was natural for me. It was easy for me to talk to students, easy for me to convey information and to engage with students. But at the time, I had just finished playing basketball overseas with a Christian professional basketball team called Athletes in Action. And I thought that my lifestyle deemed a little bit different income. And so I stopped in education and started in radio. And I was a radio sales manager for a lot of radio stations all over the country. My very first position in radio was working at WHKO which was a country radio station. So see, right there, I already have the connection with Nashville. And after about 9 years of being in radio and meeting my wife, who was an on-air personality at the radio station, we decided that we were not going to stay in that industry because it was not the way that we wanted to raise our children. So we moved back to Denver, Colorado. And I remember a conversation and saying that I wanted to give back to the shoulders upon which I stand. And I wanted to go into education. And I got a position at DeVry University as the assistant admissions director. And I remember thinking to myself that I am not doing anything more than taking people's money and giving them a piece of paper with the hope that they can do something to it. And so as I literally wandered down the street, because I used to have cluster headaches, my dad came and picked me up and saw that I was frustrated, and he said to me, "Son, you're going to have to do something different." And as I looked online, there was a position that literally popped out in 3D. And this position was learning through internship coordinator at a new big picture high school in Denver, Colorado. And in 48 hours, I was selected for that position. After being selected, they told me that I had what it takes to be the principal. And so while assuming those responsibilities, I went to 4 different principal programs. And so I have 4 principal certifications. You only need 1, but I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was doing and to have credibility. Within 3 years, we were able to graduate 100% of the students and send 100% of the students to college. This was with a group of students that looked like me, that learned like I learned, but had no success in traditional schools. And because of that success, I received a phone call from Jaime Aquino, who's an esteemed educator, and Michael Bennett, who said, "We would love for you to come and work at one of the elementary schools." And so I took over a low-performing and low-enrollment elementary school called Barrett. If you know Earth, Wind, and Fire, this is a school where Philip Bailey went to school and was dying a slow death. And we were able in 2 years to turn that school around, get high performance, lower the discipline, raise the attendance. And then Mr. Aquino and Mr. Bennett did something to me that I thought was going to be career suicide. And they said, "We want you to take over MLK, Junior Early College." And I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I live in the neighborhood, and my kids would not go to that school, and there's no way that I'm going to take that school over. It had been deemed in America as the worst school in America. Dateline in 1991. I walked through the doors at the interview, and a young lady was escorting me, much like the students here today. And she said to me, "Mr." And in Denver, they don't call you by your last name, just Mr. I turned around and I said, "Yes, all we want to know is, are you going to stay?" They had 7 principals in 8 years. It was a feeder to a school that had 27 principals in 30 years. And it was at that point that I knew I wanted that job. And so took over MLK Junior Early College, turned it into a 612, received and fought for innovation status, which was a hot button all around the country, which gave us the autonomies to do things for students that needed to be done. We extended the school day. We made graduation requirements that required students have to take college classes before they graduate. We instituted a dress code policy. We had different learning modalities that our teachers worked with students on. And we truly did not accept Fs. And so by the third year, we received an award from the Colorado Department of Education as a Center for High Performance. We received that award the next 3 years, and we graduated 100% of our students and sent 100% of those students to college with the same black and brown students that nobody thought could do it. Thank you. That garnered a lot of attention, and the district asked me to then take over the area that MLK was housed in and turn those schools around, which is now deemed as the most successful and largest turnaround in the nation. We were able to do it. All of the schools, starting with 11 of them, went from failing or not meeting district and state standards to in 1 year meeting and exceeding district and state standards. We had 96% retention of teachers, so we stopped the floodgates where folks did not want to work with our students. We had different options for students, international, arts programs, early college program, a traditional college prep program. We had all of these schools, and we figured out a way to give the students what they needed. That career took me, I'll take that back, and I will say this. We were doing great work in Denver, Colorado, and it was awesome. And then something happened where I needed to be a father. So my 20-year-old daughter, who is in Winston-Salem at this very moment, decided that she was going to do everything her junior year besides get pregnant and actually kill somebody, and very, very seriously. And we saw our child, ironically, in this newspaper wearing a debutante dress. She was an escort at the Botillion, very expensive gown, and she had to get tailored and fitted to do all this stuff, and we still have the dress because the child is going to wear it when she gets married. And we saw this picture of our daughter, and we thought, oh my God, she looks so beautiful. And then 5 minutes later, we saw our daughter come out of jail with handcuffs and shackles. And I saw my wife do something that I've never seen before. I saw her sink. And as a father, I thought about, I take care of everyone else's child. I got to take care of my own. And instead of choking her like I wanted to do, I looked at the child and I said, so where do you want to go to college? Because that is still going to be the goal. She said, well, Dad, I want to go to North Carolina A&T or Winston-Salem State. I said, good, that's where we're moving. And so I gave up the work in Denver, Colorado. It was in a sustainable place. And I was driving down the highway. I received a phone call with 2 offers. 1, to be the executive director of New Leaders. 2, to come on board in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. I was strongly advised that if I became the director of New Leaders, that they would not be funded anymore. So I chose to become a part of Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. Then fast forward to now, I was called by a good friend and a person that I did work with in Denver, Colorado around the turnaround. And he asked me to come lead the transformation of his superintendency in Oakland. My wife, being from Sacramento, an hour away, thought this was a great idea. And really, because we were in Jamaica at the time when we got the phone call, we were very excited to go to Oakland. And so we moved to Oakland within 3 weeks, and I've been there as a chief of schools ever since. And so that's a little bit about my career.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Now we'll turn to our panel, and first let me introduce them. First, we have Stephanie Spears, who is representing MNPS Directors Parent Advisory Council. Okay. Eric Holt, who is from MNEA. Eric. Melissa Jaggers from Alignment Nashville. Kelly Lawrence, who is from SEIU Local 2015. Judy Cummings, who is from our faith community and representing NOAA. And then we have Tom Aaron from Deloitte, who's representing the chamber. And we have our lovely student also.
Yes.
So we'll start the questions. Why don't we start with you, Stephanie?
Is there anything that Nashville can or should do to stop flight of our affluent families to neighboring counties?
Yes. Thank you for the question. Very much. What we have to do is we have to create high-performing options in all of our schools around the district. We have to do that very intentionally. So not in a gimmicky way, but truly with sustainability and involving the community in that process. Once we create products, a product that families want, more families will trust us to educate their middle school and high school students, because that's where we see the largest flight. And so I think to do that very well, we have to have conversations with those parents that are leaving and understand exactly why they're leaving and understand exactly what they need. But I truly believe that if we put the best schools into our regions, in every region, that we will truly see less flight. The other thing that is really important is we have to provide acceleration opportunities, which means that students should not be limited because they are high performing and there's nothing else for them to take. We have to create options for them to go even further, even faster. And we have to do that in middle school, we have to do that in high school, and we have to do it in a way that is going to give them a rich academic experience. And so I think by doing those things and really working with the community to put in place some high-performing schools that have options that parents want, more parents will come back to Nashville Public Schools.
As superintendent, what would you do to attract and retain more minority employees, including teachers?
Okay. Thank you for the question. So I would start with the retain part first. We cannot lose any more teachers for whatever reason are employees. We truly have to work on developing people, one, professionally, but two, through leadership. And together, that leadership and that professional development, one, will fill their bucket, and two, will provide them the opportunities of growth professionally to sustain them. We have to work with people and understand what their challenges are and what kind of support that they need. Everyone's in a different situation, and we have to understand from the district point of view that we are here in service to our schools and ultimately to our students. And so how teachers are being communicated with, what customer service they're receiving, what kind of supports they're receiving and challenges they're having within their schools, we have to take a look at that. And then we have to attract teachers to want to come. And before we attract anybody to want to come to the school system, we have to make sure that the school system is tight. All right, and we can do that very quickly. How are we going to recruit? We have to be intentional. What are the efforts we're going to make? How are we going to respond to people when they apply for positions within the school district? What is our response to the interview process, and what kind of opportunities are we going to really give them that will want to come into the district and stay? And then we have to look at everywhere. It's not just one effort. So it's not just going to black colleges, it's not just looking on the internet, but it is truly about creating equitable opportunities for teachers where they are, and understanding that there are districts all over the country and folks are looking to move, and we have a very attractive city. How do we get them to come here, and how are we going to support them and keep them once they are here?
So how and when would you plan to engage the community in building a new vision and strategic plan for the district?
Absolutely. So very similar to this. We have community engagement meetings that are real and authentic. And those meetings are not just check the box, we've done this. okay, let's move forward and put in our plan. But before I would come up with a new strategic plan, we'd have a series of community engagement meetings, and community engagement should be ongoing. It just should shift as a priority or the focus area shift. And then we'd have tough conversations. There would be real input from the community around the things that they want to see. I think Nashville does a great job in collecting data, picking up the PACE reports, the education report card. There's a lot of points of data that they are going out and getting from parents. I think we got to do that in a real intentional and robust way. And then after that, we continue to give updates around how the strategic plan has been unveiled and what is the progress on that strategic plan. So it's not just important to say, okay, let's involve you in the beginning, but now let's show you where we are progressing. Let's show you still where we have opportunities, and we have to partner in this work. What I found that both in Denver, Charlotte, and Oakland, that if you do that well, it removes a lot of the stigma that the district is doing things to me, but it also creates the partnerships needed to get the work done that's ultimately for our students.
Well, first of all, welcome to Nashville, sir.
Thank you.
Sometimes our school districts will turn some support services over to private companies. Instead of having district employees perform performing these services in-house, what is your perspective on privatizing, outsourcing school services?
So I would have to understand the context. I think it's a very good question, and thank you for it. I need to understand the context and if there's capacity or what the challenges are within our school systems. For example, in Oakland, we don't have hot lunches at a lot of our schools because a lot of our schools do not have cafeterias. And so students eat outside, students bring bag lunches. My daughters have never had a hot lunch at this school. They always bring their lunch. And so what would be important is talking with the food service workers, of course, working with the district to find out the capacity, the context, of course, the cost, and then what it looks like for each of our schools. But at this point, what I would tell you, as a district, we want to be responsible for the things that we can manage. And that means from custodial services all the way up the chain or down the chain, if you will. It is important that I think the district creates a culture and values that culture of the people in it and understand that we all play an integral part to educating the students.
Thank you, and welcome to Nashville.
Thank you.
A recent Vanderbilt study indicated that there is a higher rate of racial discrimination in students' access to gifted and talented programs. What experience do you have in addressing equal and fair access for all students into gifted and talented programs?
Yeah, thank you for that question. That's very good. Personal, a real quick story about my daughter who was said she was gifted and talented, but because of a test that she took, she did not go into the gifted and talented program. Now, I know my child is still gifted and talented. I live with her every day. However, that didn't satisfy me as a parent. So as a leader in the schools, what I fought to do and what I would here is to make equitable opportunities for all students, regardless if they tested gifted and talent or not. You hold students to high expectations. You create different opportunities in every school. I was talking to a senior yesterday, and she was talking about her experience, and I said, do you know you could be in an AP class right now? There's actually no prerequisite to take an AP English. And she said, no, I didn't. Can I do it virtually? I said, no, it doesn't really work like that, but the goal would be to expose kids to those rigorous opportunities in every school. That is something that the district has to name as an initiative and as an expectation. That would certainly be an expectation for me.
Welcome, glad to have you here.
Thank you.
So Metro's 12-zone high schools are organized into the academies of Nashville, which have career thematic focus. They also partner with community, business, and post-secondary organizations to help the children. So what's your view on Nashville's academies, and then what do you see their future under your administration?
Yeah, absolutely. So if something is working well, it is not my goal to come in and change it just because I didn't create it. What this is really about is the students, and the students having the opportunity to experience success in programs that are already established. What I will do, though, is make sure that not just a certain amount of students have the opportunities to be in academies, but all students should have the opportunity to experience that same success. And so where there are gaps, we would fill those gaps with meaningful opportunities. And then we would encourage schools to think outside the box and not just look at high schools having academies, but let's take a look at middle schools. And let's prepare our students before they go into high school for the expectations that we have for them.
Enrollment into the academic-based high schools in Nashville, such as Hume Falk or MLK, are very competitive. How could you ensure high schools in Nashville, well, each and every high school in Nashville, has the same standard of academics?
Thank you for that question. And it's one that I think we have to talk about as a district. It's expectations for all students. If we truly are saying that expectations for all students and excellence for every student, which is on the strategic plan, then that means that we have to have it in each one of our schools. And that means that students have to have rigorous opportunities, whether they go to Hume Falk or whether they go to another school. We also have to create opportunities outside of the school. I truly believe that when you go into high school, you should be encouraged at your freshman year to take college courses and take post-secondary options or concurrent enrollment. Because the sooner that happens, it takes away some of the fear that if students have of being successful after high school. The other thing is we have to empower our teachers, our principals, and school leaders and push them on the way that they design their master schedules. And there's an example, I'm not going to go into the example that I experienced with a student, but the student was essentially repeating a class that she already had an A in. That's a master scheduling list. Counselors, teachers, the principal has to know what students need to be on track, and then they have to monitor that. And so having the data that says, okay, this is where a student is, and this is how we're going to push them and support them to get to where they're going. Because I truly believe it shouldn't be dictated by what school you go to, but what school you are at because of your learning needs. And that school should still have the same opportunities as any other.
Let's turn to some of the questions we've gotten from the audience. Here's our first one. What is your experience with special education? What will be your approach to meeting the needs of special education students?
Thank you. So the special ed question, obviously, as a student that was identified as a LISP, is important to me and also personal. My mother was a special ed teacher. I was certified first in secondary English, but went back and got a certification in special ed and became the special ed provider at the school that I started. It is important to me that we have opportunities for our special ed students, one, to be included in general population and to be held to the same expectation as every other student. It's also important to me that we don't over-identify students, and I would work hard to make sure that we are not doing that as a measure because we didn't want to deal with the student or could not deal with the student, but that it is a true identification. Unfortunately, I was visiting a location yesterday with a group of people, and they were talking about their 3-year-old SPED program. To me, I grimaced. If you are been on this earth for 3 years and you're being identified in special education already, then I want to know what other kind of supports have we done, or have we just said this is the only option? It cannot be the only option. it cannot be the only option for our students, so we have to have support and wraparound services, social emotional learning, which is critical for students. We have to have PBIS and no-nonsense nurturing, and just make sure that students are getting the supports that they need in the ways that are going to help them be successful. If we do have mild, moderate, and severe special needs programs, which I know we do, we have to make sure that those programs are rigorous and that those programs are actually educating the students based on what they need to be successful. And then I truly believe in inclusion, not full inclusion, taking away special ed classrooms, but inclusion that gives all students to be in classes together. And that's important to me because we all live in this world together. We're all going to function in this world together. And so we need to be able to learn together.
How will you bridge the gap between anti-charter folks and high-performing charter schools we have here?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So as a district leader and looking at what we have in our district, it's important to me that we put out high-quality schools, and we have high-quality schools in each of our regions. I think that that is really important. I think actually the conversation between high-performing charters and district schools is not where I would focus my time. Where I would focus my time is learning from the best practices that we have in district schools, the best practices that we see in charter schools, and making sure that those best practices are in all of our district schools. I truly think, fundamentally, that the charter conversation, as I see it right now, is a distractor. What we have to do is fix our schools. And once we fix our schools, then parent will vote with their feet about where they want their student to be educated. So it will be my job to focus on what we do with our schools.
Excellent.
How would you address the effects of gang activity in our schools?
So thank you for that question. And understanding what that gang activity looks like. I know there are gangs all over the country in every school district. We certainly had them in Denver, and it was something that I had to deal with. One is understanding the gang context and working with local law enforcement and other folks to identify. But gang members are students and people too. Mm-hmm. And gang members need education. Mm-hmm. And what we need to do is give them another option to why they feel like being in a gang is important. And that option is quality education that engages them in something different. As I said, I started a school for students that look like me and learn like me. Many of those students, including my son who I adopted, was a big-time gang member. And that school, as I said, graduated 100% and sent 100% of those students to college. It's really about the option. It's really about the belief. The students will learn, students can make something with their life, and then supporting them with the resources to make that option become a reality. Mm.
Historically, MNPS has used exclusionary discipline, suspension and expulsion, at a much higher rate than other districts in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Are you concerned about the potential overuse of suspension and expulsion? Do you have any plans to address this issue, if hired, and how?
I'm concerned about the suspension rates of students all over the country. And we see it in disproportionate numbers, especially with African American males. And if kids are not in school, then kids are not learning. Now, I understand that there are some things that students do that jeopardize the safety of other students, and we have to think about the whole. We have to think about keeping our schools safe. But if students are being suspended for defiance, I would like to know what defiance is. There are other ways to deal with students who are deemed as defiant. than telling them that they have to leave school for a couple of days. That does not solve the issue. I've seen it over and over again. If you send a student home that was defiant when he walked out of the door, you better believe he's going to be defiant when he walks back in the door. Thank you. So what we have to do is we have to provide those wraparound services. The truth of the matter is, a lot of our students have trauma and come from traumatic situations. They see a lot more than people understand and know that they see and deal with at their young ages. We have to provide them a safe space, and the school has to be that place that they want to be at. And then once they're there, we have to be able to support them academically and social-emotionally to grow and address those things that they're dealing with. It is not an easy solution, but we will have a district initiative around suspensions, and it's something that I will monitor, because I truly believe that this impacts our students way more than it has to.
How would you encourage teacher and administrators to dress professional?
Whoa, that must be a problem.
So, people are clapping. I'll look to the board to put out a policy. So that's the best answer for that question. No. But seriously, I think, yes, we'll just vote on a policy and that will take care of that. But so, dressing professionally is a relative term. And I truly mean that, because being in California, in Berkeley, around the Bay Area, dressing professionally is wearing jeans and Birkenstocks, and that is okay. But in Nashville, it may be something different. And so what we have to take a look at is, what is the culture in Nashville? And if there's some shifts that need to be made, then we have to have a conversation on how that's going to happen. What I also understand is, there's financial situations. And so I want people to look good. I want them to look their best. And I want them to come in and be appropriate. But I understand that with financial challenges, I'm not going to go out and say to anybody that you're going to have to wear a shirt and tie and black shoes or brown shoes every single day. But I want you to look your best, because you have to model for your students what professional dress looks like. And that's where I focus.
Okay, let's go back to our panel. Start with you, Trinity. Start with you.
Since we are known as Music City, how can we build an ongoing relationship with art institutions with MNPS? For example, Frisk Center, Area Museum, and music companies.
So thank you for that. And I understand there's a huge music connection, and I'm scanning the audience, because I saw the person who's over music now earlier, and maybe she has left. But I truly believe that connections like that are important. And so having such a great one now is great for many students, but how we develop those, and it is truly going out and having conversations and saying that this is what is needed for our students. One of the questions that I ask city leaders and board members is, are we in it to stand together to do the things that are right for students? And the answer that I got was yes. And so that means we're going to have to sometimes get out of the way of our adult limitations to do what's right for students, and allow them to experience things that we may have never experienced before, but are the right things to experience. And so we will look for rich opportunities that will be able to serve the majority or masses of our students, and then create them in a sustainable way.
Tom.
How will you ensure that every classroom has an outstanding teacher in it?
Yes, thank you very much. There's a couple of ways that I would ensure every classroom has a great teacher. One, we have to have a performance evaluation system that supports teachers, not punitive. You're not going to have a great classroom teacher if you give someone a punitive evaluation. Where you have a great teacher is where those strengths are with the teacher, where those gaps are, and truly how to support them. And so to that end, we have to have the structure set up in the district, from the district level, to be able to support our teachers through professional development opportunities, both individually and also collectively, but making sure that those are differentiated. Then I think it's important for teachers to spend time with other teachers, learning from each other. Teachers are great in the fact that they want to spend their time teaching and not doing everything else. And so how are we going to support our teachers being able to spend the time really that they love the most in front of their students, providing quality instruction with the resources to help them with some of those other areas. That's how I think we ensure having and keeping effective teachers in every classroom.
Judy?
Mr. Smith,
I like him, by the way.
I am sure
Yeah.
that you have done your research as it relates to our school and school system, and so you know where we are today.
Yes.
I'm sure that your research included listening to word on the street. Given that, what would you say, what changes will you make over the first 18 months that the school would look different than it looks today?
Okay. Thank you for that question. And it's the schools, it's also the district. And it has to be steeped within the culture that we set for. Early this morning, I had a chance to go before the board and present my 6-12-24 is what I call it, plan coming into the door and what we would do. And we would focus and have priorities on 3 main areas. These priority areas are talent, effectiveness, school performance, and district inclusiveness. If you don't remember anything else, remember effectiveness, performance, and inclusiveness. That encompasses everything as a school district that we want to be. We want to be effective for our talent and our students. We want to have high-performing schools, and we want to be inclusive of the community. And what you will see from that is not only a cultural shift within the district in how we serve schools, how we retain talent, and how schools are set up, but what you will also see is a shift in how we serve each other and most importantly, our students and the outcomes. So what we should see is more programs, not again, gimmicky programs, but I want to see in schools access to AP classes and concurrent enrollment classes in high school. I want us to have, start our college focus with middle school students. We should be doing a planning with our middle school students about how they will matriculate and be expected to go to college. We will start to see established initiatives around programs to serve our neediest students. So our English language learners and our special needs students and how we are providing resources for them. And then we should see that the district overall is responding to the needs of our students in a different, more comprehensive way, because we're going to set up the structures that our district is in service to schools. So meaning it is not going to be a lot of people sitting at central office that don't touch kids. We're going to be setting up a structure where people from central office are going to be in schools, are in service to schools, because that's truly what's going to make the impact.
Okay, can you please describe your experiences working with employee organizations? How would you collaborate with an employee organization for employees to give input in policy procedures and the employee handbook?
Okay. Thank you very much. And so with employees, and I'll go to a couple of different examples and then talk about overall. The first example was in Martin Luther King Jr. Early College. When I walked in, teachers, when I walked in the front door, sitting in a room with not as many people as this, but with a room full of teachers that said, hey, thanks for coming, good luck, we're out. Okay, and so I had to hire 65 new teachers very quickly. And I had to make some decisions around what we were going to do as a school and how we were going to engage them. What I realized very quickly, that there's one principal sitting in this chair, but I had a teaching staff of over 100. If I was not inclusive of the teaching staff and I did not empower them to make the decisions based on what they do every single day and see every single day with their students, then what I was going to be doing was more of the same, which is doing things to them but not with them. I firmly believe that for anything to be successful, especially in turnaround, especially in tough situations, you have to empower and work with everybody on the staff, and you have to create that buy-in. So the one thing that I did that was very strategic was I created a design team of teachers and parents at MOK to go for the innovation status. I gave them my non-negotiables and then got out of the room and let them have the tough conversations. And then I would come back periodically in a couple of weeks, and they would give me reports on where they were. Because they got to design it with those non-negotiables that I needed to see in place for success, they were ready to go out and implement it. And so it's truly creating a structure where we're in this together. And it's not just me telling you, but we have to grapple with it. You have to have voice in it. And we have to say that if we're going to do this, that means we're all going to do this.
Considering that the average tenure of an urban superintendent is less than 5 years, how would you plan to build some continuity and sustainability for your vision and initiatives that you put in place once you've moved on to your second career of deep sea fishing captain?
Very good. I'm glad you remembered, because I'm not doing this again. This is where I want to be. So two things. One, personally. I owe it to my kids and my family to have established roots, to be able to go through middle school, the rest of middle school, and high school in one place. And it's important to me that I do that as a father. But equally as important, I want to be here. I've lived a lot of places, and I've had the fortune to go a lot of places around this country and the world. But I want to have roots as well. And I want to get vested into a community and make the changes and truly become a part of this community and create the relationships that are going to be sustainable. I don't see that happening with 5 years. I see that happening over 8, 9, 10, 11 years. And so I'm going into this thinking that this is going to be long term. And if people are thinking differently, then I'm not interested because I want to be here. We're not going to turn around schools overnight. They did not become failing overnight. And so we're going to have to chisel away at them. We're going to have to do it intentionally and with some urgency, but we have to be realistic about it. And so we have to have a real long-term plan that is truly going to set this district up. And when I finally do become the fishing boat captain, then it doesn't matter who else comes into the door. We will already have the foundational system and structure set up for success for generations to come.
We hear many claims that some personnel decisions in this era of principal autonomy are tainted by ageism and institutional racism. How would you hold our autonomous principals accountable for their actions and school climate?
Thank you. So the question is around autonomy, and we talk about autonomy. I truly believe in defined autonomy. So I don't believe in blanket autonomy. Here you go, and I expect you to know what to do with it if I haven't put the structures in to support you. And so I fully believe that we have to support our leaders wherever they are and whatever autonomies that they have by providing them with the guidance and structures based off of our priorities, that the autonomies that they have to be aligned to those. Now, you may choose an intervention, you may choose a resource teacher, you may choose technology. All right, that may be your choice based on what you need and deem in your school. But we have to have structures of guidance around that. For those schools and school leaders that have maximum autonomy, there still has to be accountability. So we trust you with the resources, but we got to know that those resources are being used to educate all students. and used to move the needle. And so we just simply, and it's not simple, but it is a simple answer. Setting up the structures to, one, support teachers, to define what autonomy really means, and then to put people in different buckets based on where they are with their schools, where they are as growth as leaders, and then truly make the resources available if we say we're going to have autonomous schools.
Should we open more academic magnets considering the high number of academically advanced students on waiting lists? And what would you tell the student and the family that is number 839 on a waiting list?
So I think thank you for the question. I think we ought to create more options for students, not just magnets that do the same thing and maybe exclude students, but how are we doing this in every one of our schools? See, magnets are great. And I've been a part of magnets in Charlotte, and that's really the other place that used a lot of magnet programs. But magnets also excluded a vast number of students. What we can't do is exclude some students and have it good for other students. We have to create options that are going to be good for all students. And so it's not about creating more magnets. It's about creating more options that magnets bring that entice our parents to stay and choose those for their school option.
Okay, why don't we get some questions that came in online. David Ploss from the Tennessean will come up and read some of those questions. Thank you, David.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
We're going to ask you just a few questions from our readers that have come in through Tennessean.com. The first question has to do with the digital divide. More than half of students in Metro Nashville Public Schools are not connected to the internet from home, and yet the competitive workforce requires digital skills. What can you do to ensure that you can bridge that digital divide?
Thank you for that question. There are a couple of things. First, I want to be very careful in saying there's a lot of new research now that talks about technology and how it is used for schools and how it is used to increase student performance. I truly believe that technology is a tool to engage our students and that we have to use it responsibly. I don't believe that technology is the answer that will solve some of the low performance that we have in our schools. However, with that said, I do believe that our students need access to it because that is the world that we live in. My daughter can program a phone without looking at an instruction manual, and it takes me 35, 45 minutes to put in one thing, and she has it done in 5. Kids are born with that. And so how we spend our resources based on our strategies and priorities is going to be important. What we have in our inventory already, we need to assess that. And then truly, we need to partner with outside companies and organizations to bring those opportunities into our students. And then we need to think about technology as more than just computers. It is phones. It is different assistive technologies for special needs students. It is different ways that students work with each other, conferencing over a video chat. All of those things are technology, and we have to think about it in a very holistic way.
Thank you. The next question relates to the issue of the change process, and you've spoken extensively about your experience at Martin Luther King Jr., and perhaps this is for this school or for another example, but what is the most difficult decision you've had to make in the change process you've had to make? And talk a little bit about the improved outcomes, if you could hone in on a very specific decision.
Wow, so there are lots. I will speak to the most recent, which is in Oakland, California. Where we walked into a situation where there were 5 schools that were voted on that were going to be changed, and they were the lowest performing schools in the district. And I walked into a firestorm because I was the one standing before the people telling them that I was changing their school without any context and historical context for what these schools represented to these communities. I was standing up there and almost literally taking bullets, trying to tell people that I'm going to change their school. What's important about the change process is we have to honor what people bring and what that means to them. We cannot do things to them. We have to understand that the conversation is going to be hard. We have to be willing to stand in the conversation. But here's what I will say about when we change our turnaround at school. I am not going to stand up before anyone and say we're going to make any changes unless I know for sure that what we are going to be changing is going to be better than what we changed it from. And I truly believe by doing that and going through an authentic process that we will get past some of the bumps and the bruises, and the ultimate outcome, which is performance for our students, will be met.
The final question we have here. The final question is on per pupil expenditures. You've worked with several districts that have a variety of different levels of funding, whether it's $13,041 in Denver, $8,852 in Charlotte, or $12,809 in Oakland. Here, it's around $10,000 or so. Do you talk about how do you replicate your success in districts that have such varying degrees of per pupil spending?
So, and what I want to explain to folks, and thank you for that question, is what facts you gave were just a general number for per pupil revenue. Okay, some of that revenue in the per pupil spending goes to administration to take care of the central office and employ people, and some of that goes directly to the students. So in every district, it's set up that way. And so in Denver and in Oakland, you see much smaller numbers going directly towards the education of students. What you have to do is you have to take a look at how those dollars are being spent, and centrally, how you get more dollars from central inside the schools. And so that you have to look at your district and the way it's set up. You have to look at the way central office is staffed. You have to look at how many resources are actually going to the school and impacting students, and if not, how you can change that. One of the big areas of focus that we had this year and last year in Oakland was that very thing. Our schools need more resources and need more support. The only way to do that is change some of the structures in central admin and put more dollars into schools. And that is really the only way, because we don't have an infinite pot of money to truly make sure that our schools are getting equitable access to the things that they need to be successful.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Let's take some more questions we have from the audience. Do you believe in vocational education for those students that are not on an academic track to college?
So everybody should be on an academic track to college. We should go in and prepare students as if 100% of our students are going to go to college. Now, if they choose not to, that is fine. But we have the same high expectations for every student. We want to give students opportunities to choose. And so I am not going to put students on a track and say you're on a vocational track, you're on a college track, you're on a military track. What I'm going to do is provide options for students. We will help them make informed decisions, and students can choose. And if they choose to change their mind because they are still kids, then we will honor that they are changing their minds because they are still kids.
Support employees do not feel like they have been valued. How would you change that?
So support employees, and I said this in one of the articles that I included in my dossier, I didn't want to take credit for something because it was not just me making the decisions, but it was the food service workers, it was the custodians, it was the education assistants in the classroom and para-educators that truly made the difference. What we have to understand is that in education, everyone is an educator, and everyone should be treated with the respect because they come in contact with our students on a daily basis. If we don't believe that the janitor and the food service worker have the same influence over students as teachers, then we are fooling ourselves. In Oakland, and this is one story that I'm very proud to tell, we have a janitor who has been at the school for 34 years, and every single day, this janitor comes to school and he wears a shirt and tie. And he does that because many of those students have never seen a black man in a shirt and tie, and that is the only example that they get to see. That is a positive example of this janitor making a difference with students, and he takes pride in that. And I thank him for that because it is allowing our young males, these young males, to see somebody wearing a shirt and tie and have some pride about what they do. We have to support the growth of our support workers just like we would support our teachers. They have aspirations to climb the ladder and do different things. They have aspirations to grow and be developed. We have to provide those opportunities for them. If we're truly going to have a thriving system, then it does not just stop with the teachers. It has to be continual with everyone in the system.
What would you do to address the large number of students in our schools that are not learning to read well enough to be successful in school?
Thank you for that question. This is a critical question here. We have to establish a literacy initiative right now, and it has to be supported and it has to be resourced. We have to have data that also says if a student is not where they need to be, then this is what we do real time with the students. And so I think after school programs are great. I think before school programs are excellent, but I'm talking about real time in school. If you can't read, then I think we have to look at that as the foundational core component to what education is about. You're not going to be able to be successful in anything else. And so how, as a district, are we holding schools accountable, supporting schools to make sure that they know the data on their students? And when I go into schools, which I do every Tuesday, that I can ask a student, what level are you on and what level do you need to go to, that they will start to be able to tell me. That's what we have to see with our students.
How much testing do you feel is adequate testing?
You're talking to a person as a kid that didn't like to take a test. So as an adult, that hasn't changed too much. But what I will tell you, from the district standpoint of view, we need data to make informed decisions from a district level. But the data that we need to make those decisions is different than the data that schools need. The district needs a beginning, a mid, and an end of the year assessment, okay? Schools need embedded assessments that should be ongoing. Going back to the example that I said before, there's no way that you can actually teach literacy well and know what a student needs unless you have an embedded assessment. So I don't believe in wholesale standardized tests, but I do believe in assessments. And I do believe that that's a part of education. I would not sit here and dictate to a school that they have to have 7 assessments, and that is a magic bullet. But what I will say to school leaders is this: you need to know where your students are. And so you need to make sure that you're taking the right assessments that will give you the right data to make informed decisions.
What is your philosophy on class size? We have students who need intensive help with critical reading and writing. How can teachers give thorough and meaningful feedback to 135 students?
So 135 students overall, so let me explain that. So a teacher may see 135 students come through their classes in one given day. But hopefully I will never see a class that has 135 students because we are all in trouble if that happens. But it's a very good question, and I thank you for that. There's a lot of talk, and there has been nationally, around class sizes and sweet spots for students. A lot of research and data says that between about 20 to 30, it could be 21 students, it could be 30 students. You're not going to see a lot of variation in how students perform. What I will say to you is this. Of course, we'd like to keep our class sizes smaller because we would like to see more differentiated instruction, and that provides for more opportunities. But if they cannot get it in the classroom, because we know there's one teacher and students, all students in classes have needs, then we have to be able to provide them other opportunities within the school to get those needs met. And that's what we have set up. We cannot put this all on our teachers without giving them support to be successful. What I mean by that, in the Denver Summer Schools Network and some of the programs that I'm doing now, we put in a math tutoring program. That program is in grades 4, 6, and 8. Those are transition grades. It is in conjunction with what they get in their math classes every single day. That has been, excuse me, a game changer. The reason why the schools went from not meeting district and state standards to achieving and exceeding district and state standards in 1 year is a lot to do with the math tutoring program. Why? Because students were getting double dosed. And that double dosing was also making a big difference in how they saw themselves as students in other content areas. That's what I would be looking to do to support our teachers, because there's no way that we can expect a teacher to address every needs. We as a system have to do that collectively.
What importance does STEM education hold in your vision of MNPS, preparing students for success?
Thank you for that. If you look at the jobs that are out in the world now, there's a lot of data, and there's one that always comes back at me. There's a presentation that is called Shift Happens. And in that presentation, it talks about that there are jobs that are being created now that will change by the time our sixth graders get out of college, out of high school. That boggles my mind to think that it's changing that rapidly. So if we want our kids to be competitive not only in Nashville and in Tennessee, but also all over the United States, we have to take a look at STEM education, and we have to understand what STEM education means. It doesn't mean that we have to have models all over the school, and every school is going to be turned into a STEM school, but we have to make sure that the science, the technology, and the math and reading, it's called STEAM in some cases, and arts in other cases, and then even in Oakland it's called STREAM with the reading piece. We have to make sure that those are incorporated into the subjects, all the subjects, and students are doing it in a real way that is going to make meaning. And then we just have to provide our students with other opportunities to go out there to get internships, to experience what that is, and to bring professionals that work in those industries to help students understand how rapidly the workplace or the workforce is changing and what this will look like for their generation as they move forward.
Last question from the audience. As the leader of the district, how would you go about changing the culture of the district where every school was an environment that held high expectations for students and aggressively worked towards closing the academic gap?
Thank you. So that starts with the district and central office. I cannot expect schools to change if the people in service to the schools their culture is different. And so we have to work on our organizational effectiveness. And that is really critical. How do we, what are our values as an organization? What do we expect? How do we support? And how are we growing as leaders within the district? Once we are able to do that, and that's something that we are doing in Oakland, something that was done very successfully, we must then invite the district in to a conversation around organizational effectiveness. To do that well, you have to have real data. Folks have to tell you in meaningful ways how they are experiencing the district, how they are experiencing the culture. And you have to accept what they say in order to really be able to change it. And then you have to understand that once the culture does start to shift, that it's not over. You haven't achieved organizational effectiveness. You have to understand that there's more work that continues to do, and this should be truly a part of what the school district is about. And so if we want the culture to change, then one of our priorities is around effectiveness, and organizational effectiveness will definitely be a part of that.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We appreciate it. Now I'll turn it to you for some closing remarks.
So thank you very much for the opportunity to be before you tonight, not only tonight, but yesterday and the week before. This has truly been an enlightening experience and one that has given me a lot of information and data about the decision that I've made to apply and become the next director of MNPS. It is now even more so than ever that I know that my experiences have positioned me to do this and do it very well. I am not looking for multiple opportunities for the next professional challenge to be a superintendent. This is the opportunity that I'm looking for, and this is the opportunity that I want. More than this being an opportunity professionally, this is an opportunity that I truly can see making a difference in my life and me making a difference in many lives of the students I come in contact with. If I am blessed with the opportunity to come into Nashville, you have my word and commitment that I work with you, that I include you. You're not going to like every decision. I didn't say that. But that I will inform you and communicate with you around the things that need to get done. As a leader, I understand that leaders have to make tough decisions. And sometimes those tough decisions are not popular decisions. But every single decision I'm going to make is going to be in service of our students. That is why I am in this work. That is why I dedicated my life to this work. This is my life's mission and my passion. And I truly look forward to the opportunity to serving you and getting to work, because truthfully, we have no more time to spare. Our kids need it right now. And so I ask that if I am invited to take this position, that you stand with me, we stand together, and we do this collectively. If we are committed to that, then every one of our students will be able to dream with their eyes open, and our education system all over in every region will match the greatness of the city of Nashville. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank you all for coming out. I'd like to thank our school board members, our panel, the Tennessean and Channel 3. And remember, you got the blue cards to give us your feedback. Follow us on the website and let us know what you think. Thanks again, and thanks for coming out.